Hey everyone, I'm joined now by Jen Perelman. She is running in the Democratic primary for Florida's 23rd Congressional District, which is against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Jen, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on.
So it's great to have you here. Now, before we discuss your bio and your platform, I'm actually a little curious about the district that you're running in. So tell me about your history in that district, and also simply the demographics and sort of the makeup of that district in general.
It's very gerrymandered. Our district is very gerrymandered, so it's a very safe Democratic seat. So the only way to unseat someone is in the primary in this district because the Democrat is winning this. There's just no other way. And the district is, it's a very interesting mix. While it's very blue, it's definitely more of an establishment blue than a progressive blue. I feel like me and many other people are trying to pull in that direction. But I grew up here. I grew up in this district, but in the Dade County portion of this district. This district covers the southern portion of Broward County and then curves down the coast just to encompass all the nice, wealthy Jewish people down the beach, all the way down to Surfside. So that's how it was gerrymandered.
Hmm.
And so, I grew up in a very Jewish community down here, so it's something that I'm very familiar with. I currently live in Davie, which is in Broward County, but same district. And it's a very interesting mix of people, but we're getting a lot more young people. And there's also obviously a very big Latino community in our district as
Hmm.
well.
So now let's get a little into who you're running against in this primary, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Now, we all kind of know her influence, especially in 2016 as the DNC chair. But from your perspective as somebody actually living in the district, tell us a little more about Debbie Wasserman Schultz and what people are feeling and kind of the issue that you and other voters have with Debbie.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz has essentially been my representative in one form or another for 28 years. She was in the Florida State House first and was my representative there. And then when we redistricted, there was an opening and she became my congressperson. So she's been in Congress for 15 years now. And what everyone knows her from is this 2016 DNC cheating Bernie fiasco. But in reality, she started out seemingly well-intended. And this was, when she was in the Florida legislature, she would actually go campaigning and knocking on doors. So I don't think that it's something that was necessarily always malintended. But over the years, and certainly she's not the only one, there has been this complete corporate takeover of essentially everything. And, I'd love to say it's just her, but obviously it's not. And yeah, there are certain companies and corporations and special interests that she takes money from that I find particularly disturbing, but I would probably feel that way in a lot of districts.
Hmm. So tell us a bit about the money aspect of that, because I have heard you discuss before there is I guess toxic algae, and that somehow this money has contributed to that. So discuss that aspect of this.
Okay, so we have a toxic blue-green algae problem right now that is infesting our inland waterways, which is also the source of where that's our drinking water ultimately comes from that. So this is not a coastal thing, it's an inland water thing. And the biggest source of the algae blooms is the nitrous runoff from industrialized farming that's in the middle of the state, specifically on the south side of Lake Okeechobee. And the biggest industry is big sugar. And Debbie, that's one of her biggest donors, if not her biggest donor, is big sugar. And so when we're constantly giving the sugar industry subsidies and allowing them to essentially hold the land hostage that would otherwise be filtering the water for us, maybe she would vote that way anyway. Maybe she wouldn't. I don't know. But the appearance of impropriety is disturbing.
Hmm.
So, and big sugar and blue-green algae is one of many instances of what I find filthy money.
Yeah. And so you're running, I assume, taking no corporate money, taking none of
Correct.
that, and you're simply relying on individual donors. I imagine mostly small individual donors. And so Tell me about that process, because you're essentially running in this race against somebody who is very well known in the district, has the entire Democratic machine behind them. Tell us about the kind of what you struggle with, or I guess what the biggest struggle you have is running against somebody who is so well known in that district, already has a whole machine behind her. How do you kind of prop up your campaign in a way that is able to overcome that?
In the very beginning when we started this, and I've been saying this all along, I don't care how much money she has and how much money she makes. And quite honestly, it doesn't really matter to me one way or the other. I mean, she can outspend us 10 to 1, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. I know what we need in order to run the kind of campaign that we want to run. And that's all I think about. Like, I think about what do we need to bring in so that we can run what we're trying to run, which is the first ever congressional service campaign. And we're starting something called GenCorps, and we are going to have volunteers out in the community throughout the whole district, showing this district what representation looks like in the form of community service. So, I mean, essentially, that's the premise. Our campaign says that congressional representation is a term of service and not a career. And so we are showing this district what that looks like. So GenCorps is going to be all throughout the district. We're going to be doing everything from neighborhood cleanup, planting community gardens. We're doing things helping veterans, feeding communities that don't have access to healthy food. And we will be all over the community doing this stuff. So I can't worry too much about her money. I honestly, I'm amazed at how well we've been doing. I am. And yeah, we need more money. And that's just unfortunately the truth. But I mean, I've had over 1,000 individual donations since July.
Wow.
She hasn't had that many since January. My average donation is, I think, $36 now. And I'm really wanting to lower it significantly. But hers is like 900 or something. Like, it's just crazy. And you know what? She should just serve those people. That's fine. Like, it's just, we're putting something really cool out there, and I think people are responding, and I kind of don't want to worry about what she's doing.
Yeah. So get a little more into your background now. So what kind of, where do you come from in terms of what you've done in the past and how you can apply that now to this race and to you potentially being in Congress?
In some ways, this has been something that, not that I ever planned would happen. It's certainly not a career move, but it's not completely out of left field. It's I went to college to do journalism, and I was a journalist person. I still identify that way. I still view things through that kind of lens. And then from there, I did marketing, where I ended up working for the Indiana Chamber of Commerce. And there, as their media person, I got to see the whole lobbying aspect and the policy aspect, and spend time at the State House and do press conferences at the governor's office. And I just really liked the policy aspect. And ultimately, I went to law school for this idea that I was going to lobby for a nonprofit. And then fast forward, and different things go in different directions. I did different types of law, 2 kids later. And but I've always stayed interested in policy. So it's not, between that and my sort of skepticism as a journalist person and a background in marketing, it's almost like a perfect combination of things that it almost, sometimes it feels really normal to me.
So now that you have this background and you're running in this race, what are you running on? So I've checked your website, your platform. You have a fantastic platform, but I guess what are the main issues that you are really pushing out there, and what matters most to your district?
And the district varies because, there's a few different things. I mean, you've got a very big elderly population. And then you also have a very, there's a good mix, but it's Medicare for all is my biggest thing. It has to happen yesterday. So for me, Medicare for all is first and foremost the thing that will change the most people's lives, I think, in the quickest amount of time. Like, I think that would be the coolest thing. And then the Green New Deal, but that even in and of itself is very kind of amorphous. There's so many aspects to it. And so it's hard to say, but we have a serious climate issue here. So I would say environmental, climate is our second, and then criminal justice reform. So Medicare for all, climate, criminal justice reform, which to me is legalizing marijuana, which is commuting and releasing everybody that is incarcerated for nonviolent drug offenses. It is abolishing for-profit prisons. I mean, just, I've seen enough doing criminal justice work and the kind of law that I've done that as bad as people think it is, I think it's worse.
Hmm. And just my personal experience, just on the issues you were speaking on, when it comes to Medicare for all, I mean, I live in Canada under a single payer system. There is really sort of this mentality where, I mean, a lot of Americans are born into this system where it's this private insurance based system. They don't really know any other way, and to them this is normal. Like living in this ridiculous system is normal. What's normal to me is living under a single payer system where I never think about healthcare. I never have to deal with out of pocket expenses. Where I just get healthcare when I need it. I mean, if I wake up feeling ill, I can make a same day appointment with my doctor, see my doctor that day, and walk in, walk out, no money, nothing. So there really needs to be sort of this and I guess we're kind of seeing it now, this sort of mentality shift around the issue of healthcare. And I think Bernie Sanders has really led the fight there and allowed people to kind of see that outside their own borders, countries worldwide are experiencing or are living under a single payer or some kind of universal healthcare system where there is huge benefits. And I think having that, in addition to the other issues you discussed, are important policy issues to really to sell people on. Now, so the primary day for your race is August 18th. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So
I think we might be the last. There might be another state that has it after us, but we are the end of the primaries.
Yeah, so that's so you do have sort of I guess it's kind of a plus and a minus here because you are able to, there is sort of a way for you to kind of build up here to that race. At the same time, it is, I mean, it's sort of at the end of as you said, at the end of voting for a lot of people, and at that point, a lot of people are kind of focused on the main races going into the fall. So how do you how do you continue the interest in your campaign for this long in a way to really build it up to the point where you are able to potentially defeat Debbie Wasserman Schultz in the primary?
Well, I think a big part of that is what I was talking about in terms of that we are a service organization. Mm-hmm. So I am getting more and more entrenched with different local organizations. And the focus is obviously, the focus is in district organizations and even helping promote small businesses, like just being very involved in the community. So it's more than just going door to door and saying, vote for Jen. There'll be canvassing, there'll be all those things, but really it's about spending this next year, bringing all of these aspects of the community together. And that way, no matter what happens in August, it's been a very productive year. Mm-hmm. So that's really the gist of it. But the other good part, and this is a huge thing about one of the reasons I feel so honored to be a brand new Congress candidate, is that we are the last of the BNC slate primaries. And so as they go on, they will all still have my back, and we will also be able to tap into some of their resources and their volunteers and their people that will now be done with those campaigns. So that is something that I sort of, that kind of keeps me thinking it'll be all right.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love the fact that you're sort of leading by example here and really being involved in the community and showing what you can do, even just as a candidate, before you even potentially get into Congress. So that's awesome. Your website, tell people and where they can find you and where they can donate.
Sure. We are at gen2020.com. And, really we're looking for small monthly individual donations. My goal is to get all of Bernie's volunteers to donate $1 a month. If I could get all of Bernie's volunteers to donate $1 a month, I could be done fundraising and just spend this whole year doing service. Like it would be amazing to not have to be dealing with that. And then we are also at Facebook, Gen2020, and we are at Twitter and Instagram at GenFL23.
Awesome. And I'll have those links below the video as well. And Jen, thanks for joining me.
Sure. Thank you so much.